working backwards from what's the goal. Like Tiger Woods is an amazing golfer. I wouldn't wish Tiger Woods' existence on my kids. He doesn't seem like a happy guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he's very wealthy. He's very famous. His wife also took a golf club to his SUV because he was fucking everything that moved, and then his whole life fell apart.
Okay, so record the intro now.
So what did Milkless? Because I think we start with the name.
Two dads. We love our kids, but then we also need them to know that we're like pretty cool, and it's not like a wimpy podcast. So, hey, hey, Milkless.
Hey, welcome. Hey,
Milkless. Call the audience, Milkless. What's up, Milkless? Max coming at you.
What if that's it? That's our first take.
All right, Matt, today we're here with our friend Simon Salgado. What a treat. What a pleasure.
What a legend.
We're going to do a quick little when equals now. We're just talking about, what's going on in our lives, just a little short or a quick little episode. First of all, Simon, welcome to the program. How's it going, bud?
Thank you guys so much for having me. You know, I love both of you guys, love the show. So it's truly an honor to be on with you guys this afternoon.
Man, we're glad you're here. This is awesome.
So pumped. Well, I'll kick off the when equals now. So I know you have older kids. Simon, how old are your kids again for the listeners?
So 3 boys, 11, 9, and almost 7.
I'm assuming they might be doing some more, competitive sports. Our kids have always done rec stuff, just like, local stuff. But just starting to get into, my oldest son did his first tryout for the travel soccer team last year. I mean, he's only fucking 8 years old. But anyway, what's weird for me is like, I want to be this chill dad who's like, I only care about effort. I don't care about outcomes. I don't care. That's what I say logically. But then the other side of me is like, no son of mine's not making the team, and it's like, how do you reconcile that not being like,
who doesn't care about effort is the world. The world wants outcomes. Yeah, dude.
But Simon, have you done any stuff like that? Or are any of your kids doing travel sports?
So all 3 of our kids are playing sports. We had a major weekend, actually last weekend, 3 lacrosse games, 3 birthday parties, and then a soccer game. And so soccer is the big sport. My middle, he's, deep into it. He did the rec league soccer until he was 8. Sounds like just like your son, Max. Mm-hmm. And then he was really into it, and he was crushing. He was scoring 7, 8 goals a game, and he wanted to take it to the next level. Yeah, I was dominating. I was like, yeah, that's my kid. He's awesome.
Messi's a bitch.
It's just like annihilating the competition, but to the point where it wasn't even fun. So we're like, yeah, let's push him and let's get him to that next level. And he wanted to. It was all driven by him. We absolutely didn't push. Our oldest had no interest, and we didn't push him, and that's fine. But our second, he really wanted to try it. So he went into the team, and he was very quickly in the bottom half of that team. And it was a pretty rude awakening for him, where he's like, wow, I'm not the best person. I'm not even close to the best person. And it was super intimidating. And it's taken him, I think, this whole last year to get more comfortable in his own skin, to feel like I think there's a little bit of, even at that age, like imposter syndrome, like, what, like, am I on this team? Why? But he's made a lot of progress, and super proud of him. He had last week, super nice assist, like teaching him to like take up the space a little bit more. And, I feel like we're fairly chill, Max. But like, there are some parents out there who are just ruthless, like getting in the coaches' faces and the refs' faces. And so that part of the game is, I don't know. I look a little sideways at that.
Well, that's aggressive. But then also like the thing that I'm on the same page about, like, okay, we'll do the travel thing if it's like their number one, they're crazy about this sort of sport. But there are other sports like basketball. So that was my probably number one sport. And the kids like basketball, but they're doing rec league basketball. And if a travel team opened up, I don't know if they have that level of love like they have for soccer. And so here's what I worry about is like, if the kids were in 6th grade, where that's when travel soccer and travel basketball started for me, I would say, oh, well, if you want to be competitive in high school basketball, you got to play in 6th grade. But I feel like that has started to creep down lower and lower, where it's like, especially basketball is kind of a technical sport. Like, I don't even know if there is a travel basketball team, but if there was and everyone's doing it, what's that all about? Like, if you don't go, you're going to miss it. Like Caitlin Murray, who's a friend of the podcast who we had on, she put out a podcast episode where she didn't play lacrosse till high school, and like went to a Division I program, won a state championship type thing.
Yeah.
I know it's a different time, but it's like, is there anything to be said for like, if the kids are just good athletes, they can just pick it up like later, or do you get passed behind? Cause they just went to tryouts yesterday and some of these kids' footwork was like fucking insane. And it's like, shit.
Nasty with the footwork. And I mean, Matt, what do you think? And then I got some thoughts too.
Well, I don't know. I was just going to say you're a little bit like you're trapped by the system in which you exist. Like, I don't want to work the number of hours I work, but if other people are, I feel like I need to in order to be competitive. Like, it feels early to be putting kids into like that intense a situation. But if all the other kids are doing it, like, aren't they going to fall behind? It's like, it's what you said, Max. It's like the whole thing has moved younger for everybody. So now you're kind of choosing between like kind of getting them into something a little intense, probably earlier than you naturally would, or not doing that, but all these other kids are.
Yeah, I think my wife and I were talking about, right, like it would just be cool. We were both varsity athletes in high school, but I don't think any of us really specialized until high school. And so we look now, and it's, if you're not playing these select soccer teams, it's going to be hard to make a varsity team playing soccer. And so, it puts that pressure to start younger. And actually, interestingly, it wasn't the only reason, but my brother and sister-in-law, they lived in Greater Boston, super competitive in all respects, including sports. And part of what they were looking for was something a little bit more easygoing. And they moved to more rural New Hampshire. And it's like there's kids are star athletes there now. And right, it's a little bit less pressure. But if you're kind of in these sort of urban centers, a lot of competition, it feels like to just get that opportunity, you do need to commit and start young, right? Max like 7, 8, like your son's doing right now.
Well, that's what's crazy is like, I've been talking a big game on this program. Like, oh man, kids are starting stuff too early. And then I went to the one tryout yesterday and just seeing how incredible these kids are. It's almost like I want sport to be fun, right? But there's a double-edged sword. Like, one, I don't think going to clinics around the world, around the country, overscheduling kids is good for them. But on the other side, if your kid is extremely athletic and loves the sport, you're kind of also maybe doing them a disservice by like not allowing them to progress with their friends. Cause then it's like, oh, we're not going to do any of that. Then they do want to play competitive when they're in sixth grade or something, and they suck. Like, can't even make the B team or something, So it's
and maybe even more than like thinking about it in terms of like planning for that future. It's like if their friends are doing it right now and they want to do it right now, like that to me, that like, and both of y'all have said this, but that seems to be the fundamental guiding principle is, are they driving it?
Are they driving it? But also as a parent, I think it's sort of this tension between, do you want them to progress and get better and specialize, or do you want them to get more access and exposure and try different sports? And when you do select or travel soccer, it's a year-round commitment, and that's time you may not be able to get exposed to max basketball, or our kids learned how to ice skate in hockey gear this year and had a ton of fun, or skiing where you live. And so we want them to try different sports, see what they like. And it's a little bit of, hey, in the summertime, we're actually, there's not going to be soccer. So you can do a couple other sports camps, have a little bit more fun. And there's always that, I think, tension between more sports, try more things versus, hey, you're good, you like it, let's get on this train and you push you as hard as, you want to go.
Yeah. God, there's so much stuff going on. Cause there is this like, just like time opportunity cost. If they're going super hard at one sport, they're not going to do other stuff. I remember making that choice. I played a lot of tennis when I was a kid, and I was like a pretty good tennis player for my age. But then at a certain point, I just like, there were other interests I had. And I've watched myself get passed by all these kids who just only played tennis. But most of those kids turned out a little weird. Like, tennis is an individual sport. Like, tennis is a hard on your mental health. I do think in general, my wife says this a lot. She's like, if we have a choice between team sports and individual sports, she feels like the mental health impact of those two things is pretty different. Like, individual sports are pretty ripe for self-flagellation, and team sports teach a lot of great things about being a part of a group and pulling your weight and all that other stuff. But it's really hard to make that calculation, especially it's like when they're 16, if they're like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore, that's pretty easy to just be like, okay, you got it. But when they're 9, they're not like, they can't really long-term plan. The decisions are going to be driven by like, oh, my friend's doing this. So it's like, how much are you in there versus how much are you really just letting them?
Right.
Like,
And you don't want to put too much on the kid to kind of say like, listen, if you don't do this, you're going to get passed by and you'll never be able to play this thing again, which is kind of true. I mean, everybody knows those people who like quit basketball a little too early.
Yeah.
They cannot play. There's
like,
no game.
You show them a Messi playing the sport. It's like very motivating. Well, if you want to be like Messi, right, you got to put in the work. And the kids just went to go see Messi play the Revolution. And I mean, it was eye opening. It's like seeing art and right. It is motivating to get them to want to train, but they have to want to do the work. My oldest, he's like, man, that's okay. I'll play soccer every once in a while. But if you really want to be the best, then you got to commit. Not saying that's where they're at, but it's interesting.
Well, and also like, I think a lot about like, what's like working backwards from what's the goal. Like Tiger Woods is an amazing golfer. I wouldn't wish Tiger Woods' existence on my kids. He doesn't seem like a happy guy. Mm-hmm. Like he's very wealthy. He's very famous. His wife also took a golf club to his SUV because he was fucking everything that moved. And then his whole life fell apart. And he has like chronic back problems. So they're probably related to like stress. So, and like, no matter how good, I watched this interesting thing. It was this guy who he had tried to create an early funnel for the Irish national soccer team. And he was trying to identify kids that were gonna potentially, that they could put into programs that would eventually funnel them towards being great soccer players to improve Irish national soccer. And he was basically like, I cannot tell you what 8-year-olds is going to be good. He says, I can't tell you. The best 8-year-old now might be nothing by the time they're 13.
And they could burn out too.
And they could burn out. Yeah.
Well, also pre-puberty, you just don't know who you're going to get.
You just don't know who you're going to get.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's why being well-rounded is important. It should be about fun, but there is this weird thing that's like, I do play the clock forward and think like, well, if they do like absolutely love soccer, like I could have just not told them about the travel team. They didn't really know about it. Like they knew that their friends had been doing it the last couple of years. I was like, you guys are too young, but they play against the garage every day for like 2 hours and they're getting good just because of the old school wall ball they're playing every day. And it's like, all right.
They're basically telling you that they're really interested and excited about it. And so you toss it out. If they want to do it, you let them go. You support them.
I mean, within reason, there is also the factor of like, how much does your whole life just end up being like taking your various children from one sporting event to the next? Like there is that opportunity cost.
Yeah. Simon, do you have any rules where it's like one sport at a time, or do you guys have some times where you're doing like soccer and baseball and karate and skiing and like in the same week?
It's a lot. And so I'd say like, that's the struggle right now where, right, that last Saturday it was 3 lacrosse games, 3 birthday parties. Sunday we wake up, it's a soccer. Right, this weekend it's 3 lacrosse games, soccer tournament. It's a lot, but that right now they're not doing tennis right now. So maybe they'll pick up tennis once the lacrosse season's over. Try to balance out. They take piano, but they'll take a break during the summer. I mean, we try to expose them not just to the sports, but right to whether it's theater or music or sports, but certainly. I don't know about your kids, but our kids, like they just need to move. They need to get their energy out. And so sports is such a productive way to channel that interest and that energy that for us, sports is year round. And it does, flex a bit with soccer for my middle being serious, but with the other boys, kind of rotating between winter sports and soccer, tennis, now lacrosse. That's how we think about it.
Well, you know what? Let's conclude the little when equals now episode. But Simon, maybe you can leave us with something. A lot of our listeners are kind of have younger kids, maybe like mine and Matt's, like probably from babies up till 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. You have some older kids or a little bit. Maybe you've seen a little bit more. Any insights on the sports that like some pitfalls? Whether it's just like don't fucking touch judo with a 10-foot pole. Or like, or any things you guys have fucked up that we can learn from, or that we should watch out for.
Baseball is America's pastime, guys. We tried baseball with our oldest, and it is just so boring as a parent to watch them when they start. And then for the kids, like they would be done with baseball practice, which was like 3 times a week, and then they'd come home and they need to fucking run around all day. It was just unsustainable. It's like, I'm going to send them to sports, and then I got to go home and like coach them at home for sports. So it's like, no, and that's why we switched to lacrosse. So for anyone who's out there suffering through baseball, you don't have to. There are other options.
Love it.
Well, and like Latin America's producing all the great players now anyways. Like we don't have to contribute to that.
Our time has come and gone, right?
Yeah.
My dad is very kind, and I love the book he wrote with his friend Max.